Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Oh my God, we're back.
Oh my God, we're back.
Oh my God. Did any news happen while I was gone?
No,
Nothing interesting?
we conveniently took a break when there was no news.
The whole world just stopped doing interesting things for a couple weeks. Good.
Yes,
We didn't miss anything. We got some for tonight, though, right?
yes, we do have some news
thank
for
God.
tonight. A couple
and-
PSAs,
Yeah?
a couple digital video stories. We got some commercial drone news. I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah.
pretty big, pretty normal news.
As well, a story out of China that could end the FPV market as we know it. I really wanted to make that be the clickbait title. People accusing me of clickbaiting the title. You have no idea how much restraint I'm showing.
That's true. That is very true.
It's good to be back. I missed you all terribly. You know, and I'll never go again. Dad came back with the milk. Someone made that joke during yesterday's live stream.
Yeah.
Oh, parasocial relationships are weird. Let's
true.
let's go. Blunty, how was did you enjoy your vacation, such as it were? The
Yeah.
little
it was
vacation
nice.
from the live streaming?
Can you believe I played video games? I'm gonna
believe
blow your mind. Yeah.
You were telling me yesterday that you've built a whole new computer so that you could play 2 video games at once.
Yes. Yes. Pretty much. Yeah. I just don't want to, you want to alt tab and you want to do some other stuff in a browser, and I got 3 monitors. I want to be using them all. Like, I'm not playing a game, but I need to use all the monitors. So now I got Russian Fishing 4 I can put on my right monitor, and I can have my lines out. I could be playing Tarkov on my main monitor, and then I can have my Tarkov maps up on my monitor with my ammo charts.
For those that don't know, we talk about it on the live streams all the time, so obviously you guys know. Russian Fishing Simulator, it's a fishing simulator, and it's such an accurate simulator that, like, you'll cast your line, and then you'll sit there for 20 minutes waiting for a fish to bite. Like, real time.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it depends on the spot and what you're fishing for. But yeah, absolutely. Right. Like eel spots can be like 1 or 2 fish an hour. It can be pretty slow. So you toss them out and you do your chores, and then you hear the bells ding and you come back and
hey, you got a bite. Or in your case, you play some Tarkov. You said
yes.
It's cracked me up. You'll get a bite, and you'll just go hide in a bush in your Tarkov game and real quick go over and reel in that fish.
Yeah, go back into a room and got your gun at the door, and then you tab over and you reel in the fish, and then if you hear movement, you tab back over and you get ready to shoot the guy. Efficiency.
I love it.
Got to be efficient.
All right. Well, enough with the banter. Let's try to. I'm gonna fuck this up. I did this before, but now it feels like it's not right. Okay, now we're centered up. Enough with the banter. Let's get on with the news, and we're going to start, as we always do, with some public service announcements. Little things that most of you won't care about, but the ones who do care are going to really need to know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, where do we start?
So our first PSA is going to be WTFOS has gotten an update. We told you about a rare bug that WTFOS and some users told us about. There were some blackout issues in the goggles with people losing video, and now they have fixed the issues. And I'm not going to say they think. No, I'm not going to say that because they have done so much testing, so much demoing, so much user testing that I believe, and they believe, that they have actually fixed the issues. They've identified what the issues were. They've tested them out over time, and then they believe they have completely fixed them. And I believe they've completely fixed them instead of just hoping. So yeah, I mean, there's a world here where we'd say, hey, they identified something they think might have been wrong, so they pushed that as the update, and hopefully everybody's things will be fixed. But in this testing, they actually identified, like, oh, here's what was triggering the blackouts for us, and here's what we were seeing. We're putting them on a bench for hundreds of hours and testing over and over again with new firmware to figure out like what's causing this stuff. So yeah,
I'm really impressed with the. I would just do a little bit of a backstroking here, but with the WTFOS devs, I've always been impressed with their technical prowess, the ability to root the goggles and do what they've done with the goggles. Is impressive. But also their sort of professionalism, if you want to call it that, in how they respond to situations like this. You see some open source projects where the devs are kind of like, I don't know, it's free. F you if you don't like it. And I'm not going to name names, but you have other open source projects where they really seem to take their responsibility to their, I was going to say customers, but they're really users. They're not even customers per se. They take it really seriously, and the WTFOS devs certainly seem to do that. So kudos to them. The takeaway for our viewers then is that if you have been holding off on flashing or rooting WTFOS because you were worried about the goggles rebooting randomly, you can now safely dispel with that concern.
100%. If you have a reboot or if you have an issue, it's going to be DJI related, as it was already. Like, it's not going to be from WTFOS. And we do know every now and then there is random issues with DJI where we've seen this, but our concern was, hey, it's also WTFOS, so let's identify what those are and fix those issues. The other thing they want to mention is that if you are having restarts or anything and you're running this or the regular DJI firmware right now at this point, you're going to want to check your fan and your goggles, because the fan and the goggles have been dying, and then people's goggles have been overheating and restarting from overheat.
So Banter Post says, are you sure? I just had my goggles black out mid-building dive at night, brought the quad back without video. So what we could take from this is that the WTFOS bug-related reboots are fixed, but there are still other things that could cause your goggles to reboot.
Also, just a reminder, this was updated yesterday, so if you didn't push this new firmware, then you might have... been victim to the old issue. So
Bannister Post might not have had the latest firmware.
Yes, but also they're asking people if you still have restarting issues, if you can, really steps to reproduce would be the best thing. But if you have these issues, they would like you to contact them after you've checked that fan and you've done the update. So good. If you can check out the WTF FPV Discord, and they've got info there.
That's interesting that like now the V2 goggles have been out long enough that like the fans are starting to fail. And you know, when people are running into this, I have recently, I'll say it, I flashed all my Vistas to 0101 so I could use them with the goggles too. I have decided, I love WTFOS, I love routing, I love all that stuff, but the OLED screens, the smaller size of the goggles too, they're lighter on your face, and the ability to record the whole screen with the OSD and all, those things swayed me away from the V2 goggles, and now I really think the V2 goggles, or the Vista with the goggles too, is one of the best combos you could get today, in some ways.
What do you think about the Integra versus the goggles 2 FOV? Have you looked in the Integras?
You know, I haven't seen it literally at all. I've not even touched an Integra in real life. It's a little smaller, right? How much smaller is it?
I think it's like 51 versus 47 or 46. Maybe somebody in chat can mention, or I can look it up. But yeah, I mean, it's like 3 to 5, and it seemed like enough that it would be a possible concern. So
46 is fine. I mean, I've flown goggles with 46 degrees, and I don't think that would be a deal breaker for me. But
yeah.
The only downside of this, and it's the old DJI compatibility matrix, right? So
44 versus 51.
That's a fair step down, but 44 I still consider to be like usable.
Yeah.
So the only downside of this is that if you have the Vista and you're using it with the goggles too, you can no longer spectate with the V2.
Yeah.
Which it seems like you should be, because the V2 can spectate the O3. But the difference is that the V2 and the G2 both go into O3 mode, and so they can spectate each other. But when you've got the G2 and the Vista, it's in the DJI FPV system mode. And now, like, it just doesn't, you can't spectate with the V2 as far as I can tell, which annoys the shit out of me. Because I was flying and I was like, hey guys, let me spectate you so you can see the awesome things I'm doing. And it didn't work. And Anyway, is it normal that you have to bind again after switching from Vista to O3 with the V2 goggles? Yes, that is a bug. It's a known bug, and it will probably never be fixed. And if you don't like it, you buy the goggles 2 and the O3, and that's what DJI has to say to you. That's about right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
One PSA in 15 minutes. Let's keep moving.
Oh, we're going. Oh, do you know how long it's been? I have to talk for hours to get it out. Go.
Fair enough. Okay. Second PSA. We wanted to show you this chart from Madstech. We appreciate Madstech, Ian Lewis in this community. Obviously, we've talked about him many times. He'll come up in the next story actually a little bit. But the main thing that we wanted to tell you about this situation is that he went through and logged the O3 and Avata channels and compared them to the original DJI channels. And it looks like most of the channel charts that are out there are just wrong, because a lot of the channel charts have grouped the Avata and the old system into the same channels. And if you go out with your friends and you want to go flying, that's going to be detrimental possibly to your flight. So yeah, good thing to point out here. They are shifted a little bit. I don't think that's as big of a deal. So 1 and 1 are shifted a little bit between O3 and FV1 and 2 and 2 are. But you'll notice that O3 skips 3 and moves 3 down to the 4 slot, moves 4 down to the 5 slot, and most interestingly puts 5 over 8. And 8 is the public channel for the V1 system.
So everybody coming up on the public channel will stomp the O3 on 5.
You're just going to get stomped. And if you're trying to mismatch each other, you have multiple people flying, and you're choosing 3, and the other, V1's choosing 4, you're going to be stomping each other. So you're just going to want to be paying special attention to those channels when you're doing those manual selections.
The other thing that stands out to me about this is that if you have the DJI O3 in auto mode, it does not use the whole band, which I assumed it would. But that does not seem to be what this chart indicates, and Madstech certainly knows what he's certainly got the tools to test and verify this. My approach when using the O3 with other pilots has just been to put it in auto mode and let it handle frequency mitigation. But if it's not using the entire band, I kind of don't know how I feel about that.
Well, so he says basically in auto video, Goggles RC and these carriers in Note 1 are all on separate frequencies in that range and should be assumed this whole part of the band is occupied. So even though they're jumping around and doing stuff, you kind of have to make an assumption because it's going to do its own jump.
Yeah. So maybe better to manually set channel, but manually set channel looking at this chart.
Right. Now you can know where that block of those channels is, which is in that 3, 4, 5, 8 range on the old system. So, yeah.
Is Ian here in the chat? Chris B has a good suggestion. I don't know if he's in the Discord, if he's active right now, but he suggests adding the Wi-Fi channels. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Just so people know which Wi-Fi channels are going to interfere where. Very good point. Okay, well, thanks to Madstech for that. We're going to be seeing him a little bit later in the stream as well. That's going to do it for our...
Real quick, and just a reminder that you can get all this information, like this channel chart and the WTFOS update information, in the show notes, where we've got all this stuff for you. You can find those links, or I'm pasting them live in the Discord chat if you're joining us in the live stream chat in your Discord. So
yeah, we'd love to have you all in the Discord. The Discord is, let's face it, the YouTube chat is, it's fine, but the Discord is where all the really cool people are.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because they pay me, because they're my patrons and they pay me.
I was going to say, so the Discord is a Patreon benefit for, I believe, just $3. You can join JB's. Oh, $2.
$2 a month. I mean, I'll raise it. Inflation, right? It's been $2 a month for a long time. Should I raise it? Should we start the inflation?
No, I thought it was $3. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's
If you donate to JB on Patreon, you can get access to that Discord where people can help you out with stuff all day. I'm there troubleshooting all day, and so are many other people. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that little plug. That was unplanned, but certainly always appreciated. Let's go on to the biggest story of the night.
Yeah, presumably.
Probably. And that is that China bans export of certain drones. And let's preface this story by saying this is not clickbait, but also it's very uncertain and up in the air exactly how this is going to play out. But we'll start with this statement from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce.
Yes, this is a translated government page. Chinese government, Chinese Commerce, Ministry of Commerce has said that essentially, let's see. So I guess we should just say, they've issued 2 announcements on the export control of UAVs. Mm-hmm. So they're going to restrict some UAV special engines, important payloads, radio communication equipment, and civilian anti-UAVs. Systems and other export controls are implemented, and some consumer-grade drones are subject to 2-year temporary export control.
So this one doesn't bother me very much because it's like, it seems pretty clear that this is tailored towards like unusual things with explicit sort of military application. And I think, like, I've seen other articles talking about this where they mention things like laser rangefinders, thermal cameras, and so on. The first part of this, and when I first heard about this ban, I read that part and thought, oh, this is much ado about nothing, because hobby drones aren't really affected by that first sort of section.
Well, so what I'm suggesting is that first section is what applies to us. It just doesn't describe it very well. So the reason I would say that is because if you look at it, it says, so we said there's 2 announcements in here. One is that first bit about the special engines, payloads, radio equipment, right? And then the second part is, at the same time, all other civilian drones that are not included in the control above are prohibited from being exported for military purposes.
Okay, so that doesn't affect us because we don't export them for military purposes. So we're good so far.
Correct.
So far we're good.
That's why I think that first part we got to see, like, so what do they mean by UAV special engines, radio communication equipment? I think it seems vague. And if you go down to the next paragraph there, we see a description of what they're attempting to do here.
Right. This is where it gets really troublesome.
Yeah, so they say, in recent years, the rapid development of UAV technology and continuous expansion of application scenarios, the risk of some high specification and high performance civilian UAVs being converted to military use continues to rise. As a major producer and exporter of drones, China has decided to moderately expand export controls on drones on the basis of full assessment and demonstration without targeting country or region. And so essentially they're saying like, hey, there's a bunch of drones and drone parts out here, civilian drones that are being used for military purposes. And
we don't like that.
Work to export, right? Correct.
And that's the part. That's the part that bothers me the most, because like you could dig through the technicalities of like what is banned, but at the end of the day, the government is going to interpret an export restriction in ways that are consistent with its ultimate end goals. So in some ways, understanding what the end goal is more important than the technicalities of the actual regulation. And if the goal is, we have noticed that consumer drones are being used for military purposes because there's all this footage coming out of Ukraine, right? There's lots of footage. It's on the civilian, it's on Telegram channels, it's on YouTube. And there's all these stories about basically people buying bind and fly drones, strapping weapons to them and flying them into targets. And the Chinese government has decided they don't like this for whatever reason, and they want to put a stop to it. And if I was somebody like, for example, an iFlight, and I only pick iFlight because they're just one of the biggest bind and fly manufacturers, and I've seen footage coming, just on the public internet of iFlight drones, right? I did that video where I responded to like stacks and stacks of iFlight drones. If I was an iFlight, that paragraph would make me very, very concerned. The rapid development of UAV technology, the risk of some high-performance civilian UAVs being converted to military use. That's exactly what this seems like they're talking about.
Right. And so they go on to say a little bit in here that, it's export control, it's not export prohibition. And there'll be approved companies and approved exports. So I think the thing that we're going to see is essentially, we don't really know. First of all, we don't really know because this is the only document we have from China. There's no law document. There's no rule regulation that we can read through to see exactly what they're restricting. There's no specifics from anything else that's been released. All the articles about it just summarize this same document. However, we do have a message we got from Madstech, right? Yeah.
So Madstech, and we're going to show the message he sent, but first we have to, I thought, oh goodness, I should go contact manufacturers and see what they have to say about this. And I started doing that, and then I talked to Madstech, and he's been doing it. So credit to him. We're going to share this information from him with his permission, but he should get full credit for doing the actual research. Here's what he had to say.
Absolutely. So Madstech let us know, and he talked a little bit about this on his stream, but this is kind of a good summary. And again, we really appreciate him sending this to us. But he said T-Motor emailed their vendors on Monday saying they won't be able to ship parts after the 1st due to new export restrictions.
Sorry to interrupt you. The 1st of September is when this goes into effect.
Correct. And Madstech has seen the email, so obviously that's a real email. He also says he spoke to manufacturers. Nobody will go on record, and there's a confusing mix of responses, which sort of, I would say, echoes what we saw on the back end and what I've seen talking to people as well. That it's kind of back and forth about what people are saying, and nobody seems super serious, but nobody seems like, oh, there's no problem. It's sort of in the middle. And then he said, I've had it confirmed that retailers have been advised by sales reps to stock up as much as possible before the 1st. Supply will be redirected. And then one manufacturer suggests they should be able to supply directly to consumers with confirmation of intended use of limited quantities. Not all companies are being treated the same, which is this thing we talked about approval. T-Motor makes a lot of parts, so it's possible they're being targeted differently. Just some more information there from Madstech about stuff. He sort of echoes at the end one of the things I would like to echo, which is just that, it's 2 days away. So if somehow all these companies don't know they suddenly aren't allowed to ship, that would be pretty crazy. So to me, right, I feel like this would have been addressed by some of these companies ahead of time. Maybe that's untrue.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe all of a sudden they'll all announce on the 1st that, hey, we can't send anything now. This is it, right? But it seems a little wild that none of these companies have put out a public statement to anyone.
At least to their resellers. Like if you're a company, companies live and die on revenue streams. So there are companies, because you have to make payroll every month. You have to pay rent on your building every month. They have fixed costs that they have to do every month. And so an interruption in your revenue stream, this is not like deep insights. This is business 101. But an interruption in your revenue stream can kill your company fast as, a reduction in your revenue stream. So if they anticipated that they were going to have export controls that would restrict their revenue, they would go to their resellers and they would say, hey guys, you need to get your fucking orders in ASAP. We need to ship as much shit as we can before September 1 so that we can get this money and we can weather this whatever happens. We haven't seen any of that as far as I can tell. I mean, Madstech says he's heard some of it, but it doesn't seem like it's widespread.
Yeah. Yeah, really all we can do at this point, based on our information, is speculate like we have, and and sort of wait it out. I mean, we have 3 days to find out, what's going to happen on September 1st. We'll know pretty quickly. And it sounds like, I heard from one of the guys on the FPV Freedom Coalition, Rob, who works with the police departments and stuff. They're being told by DJI that they'll still be able to get equipment, and DJI won't be hindered by this, which seems crazy because DJI is the largest drone manufacturer, and they seem like a large target for this kind of rule.
Sure.
But it may be because they're selling to, that's a government resource in the U.S. Maybe there's some kind of deal there about who they're supplying to and where and why. All these things are still up in the air. So yeah. Definitely just want to let you know what we know.
Yeah, keep your eyes. We have to. This is the kind of thing where, like, sometimes, and I'm thinking about the U.S. perspective, because obviously I don't have deep insights into the workings of the Chinese government, but sometimes there's a rule or a regulation passed, and everybody kind of wink, wink knows who it's targeted at, and it's targeted at a specific thing, company, a specific whatever genre. No, that's not the right word. So it could be that this will be selectively enforced and hobby drones will be fine, but boy, that second paragraph sure makes it seem like hobby drones are square in the bullseye, and we just won't know until we find out. So yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. We don't know, and we're gonna have to wait to find out. But now you also don't know just as much as we don't know, and you know the things we do know. We got some stories now about digital systems, and it's kind of funny to me because Walksnail is moving closer to HDZero, and HDZero is moving closer to Walksnail, but we're going to start with the Walksnail story.
Yeah, we've got a Walksnail update. They've added 540p mode, and this is a mode that we've mentioned before in the past.
The Latency
teased was coming out, I believe, and it showed up. So they basically have reduced, my understanding of how this works is they've reduced the resolution to 540p, but they've kept the bandwidth the same.
Correct.
So they've have more room for errors and more room for that data to fit in there, so they don't need to retransmit as much, and the retransmits aren't as fat, that sort of thing.
Yeah. In my testing, at first I was disappointed to find out that it wasn't truly fixed latency. But then when I flew it, I was really impressed because the latency does vary slightly. You can see it down here at the bottom of the screen, but it's pretty damn consistent. The spikes from like 25 to 35 are almost completely eliminated. And the latency in general is pretty damn like 22, 23, 24, 23, 22. And I swear I would love a chance to blind test this. I'm not really sure how you could blind test it since the resolution changes. But I really felt like I could feel a big difference when I went back to regular 720p mode. I was really impressed.
And just saying, we're only trusting the latency there just because it seems to be currently representing correctly as Chris Rosser tested, and then also the fact that you're seeing higher latencies in the other mode. So if it's lying mode specifically, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. However, the 540p, there are people who have looked at, and of course you guys need to remember that you're looking at a live stream. You could go watch this video of mine if you really want to see it. If you decide to do that, make sure you choose 4K resolution. Even if you're watching on a phone or you're watching on a small screen, if you choose 4K resolution, you get the maximum possible bit rate, and you will see pretty close to an accurate representation of what what you would want to see. Right now, you're looking at a live stream of a 720p stream, and so you can't really trust what you're seeing. But it definitely was a reduction in resolution. I thought it was still flyable, and I thought that I wasn't sure that it would not be a fair trade-off. I thought that the latency might be a fair trade-off to go down to 540p. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because, it's interesting because this is like, we're talking about the next story is HDZero here. And, we're getting to the point where is it better to have this fixed latency with this no buffering situation and dropping a couple pixels and however, how HDZero breakup works? Or is it better to have this smear, which you're starting to get with 540p and all this buffering and compressing that you're doing with such a small image, right? And the grass is like, at some point you're sort of running out of room. We've talked about how HDZero is 720p, and that does matter for the over-the-air transmission when you're trying to fill in all those pixels, right? Like I think,
but HDZero doesn't really. If you put HDZero 720p next to Walksnail 720p, Walksnail looks better, and DJI looks even better still. So not all 720p are equal.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that because there actually is more definition there. No matter how you view it, I imagine it makes a difference when you're starting to step the Walksnail down to 540 and you're attempting to compare, right? Yeah. So
Ming-Cheng Zhang guesses that they send a lot more iframes than before. That's a fair guess. I like that. That's a thing that would accomplish this goal, but they would need to reduce resolution to be able to handle the reduced efficiency of the increased iframes. There's a question that some people are asking. Maybe this is actually an interesting video that I might do, and I will not in any way regret the backlash from this video when it comes, which it will come, is to compare 540p HDZero against 540p Walksnail. In a way, you got 540p 90 for HDZero and 540p 100 for Walksnail. That's a fair comparison. And a lot of people, as you said, they feel that the HDZero image is lower resolution, but at least it's not all smeary and cloudy, and they might like it better. So that'd be an interesting comparison.
I'll say, and that brings us to our next story. And our next story is that HDZero is adding a 540p 60 high penetration mode in addition. So that's another one maybe you could test. We've also added low band support. So the L band, which is illegal for most people to use, at least in the US, I believe. But if you are trying to use low band, you can now do that. There's a way to do that through GitHub to flash your VTX so you can unlock those low bands. And in addition to the 540p 60 high penetration mode and low band options in the release firmware currently, there's also a new tester firmware. That's that last link I posted there that Ryan Quillett has posted up on the Divimath group. And that's going to be 1080p 30 live view. That's going to be 1080p 30 VSync tearing issues that are fixed. And that's going to be a fix for that 1080p 60 glitch we saw where the HDMI in on the HDZero goggles is having trouble.
So with the 1080p modes, you're going to get higher latency because it's 30 FPS, higher resolution, but a significant reduction in range is what I would expect. By comparison, the 540p 60 is going to give you even better range and penetration. That's pretty slick. It's pretty slick to see users having the choice. Like if I was somebody who bought Walksnail, and one of the commenters said nobody would seriously race Walksnail, right? Well, like it's a fact that some race organizers don't want to see digital systems because it messes with the timing, and if you put the pilots all in the same pilot station, they interfere with each other. So like that's going to vary. But I have to say, if you were somebody who bought DJI or Walksnail and you decided to go race, somebody's going to be like, yeah, I just want to race today. Why can't I race my system that I brought? And so if you're that person, if you're like serious about racing, you're probably not going to take Walksnail to your race. You're going to take HDZero. But if you're just a person who owns Walksnail and you want to race, or even if you just want to freestyle with that lower latency, I think it's nice to have the option. And the same is true for HDZero. If you're somebody who has HDZero and wants more penetration, it's really great to see the improvements there. So very, very excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to about halfway through the show.
Before you go on, I want to say we got a freaking $50 super chat, and I feel like that's worth interrupting the show to acknowledge. Thank you so much for Work Against the Grain for a $50 super chat. Extremely generous. And while we're getting it, I'll get this super chat from Bent Sprocket for $5, and he says, thanks for going into detail on that. I'm going to guess he's talking about the Chinese drone ban, but for whatever it is you're thankful for, thank you for the donation. Go ahead, Blunty.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, well, let's move to the plugs section of the show where we let you know what we're doing and what our things are, because we don't have sponsors. Our sponsors are us. So the first thing we want to tell you about is fpvknowitall.com. That's your website, JB, for the ultimate shopping list, where you can find parts and suggestions and links with your affiliate codes to different things that you might want to order as a new pilot or a returning pilot, or you just want to know what options are out there.
Yeah, thank you. It's like the Sears catalog for FPV. Thank you so much for letting them know about that. I want to let everybody know about ItsBlunty.com, where you can sign up to get a one-on-one call with Blunty. That's pretty much what people do there. Or join his Patreon.
Absolutely.
You got a media list? Oh, we'll talk about this later in the show, that remote ID list.
Yeah.
You
can hit me up for a call if you need to. Only Discord, please. You can email me, but I'm just going to push you to Discord. So get in my, send me a message on Discord. It's Blunty, and we can schedule a call, or I could just help you over text like I do many people.
Yeah. We also want to tell you about our live stream clips channel. If you like our live streams, and you would like to get just the cream of the crop from the live streams, or maybe you missed a live stream and you want to see what you missed, or maybe you remember a segment that you saw but you can't find it. Well, there's a good chance it's on the live stream clips channel, and you can go subscribe over there. We are at 15,000 subscribers. I haven't checked that since I've been gone. That's gone up a fair amount. That's very exciting, Blunty.
Yeah, we had a bot attack, and YouTube doesn't seem to give a shit about what subscribers are real or not. So 5,000 of those subscribers are not real. I can tell you through metrics. But they have not removed them, and they claim that they will, but they have not.
So they don't actually reflect in increased views and increased revenue. They're just numbers.
Correct.
Sad. Well, I was impressed. I was excited. Last up, we want to tell you about searchfpv.com.
Yeah.
I just actually had dinner with Eirik Toft, the dev who developed this. He's actually moving from Portland to the Knoxville area, to the Tennessee area. He was in town looking at some houses. He was like, hey, we want to go to dinner. And he said, since you've been gone, you haven't been showing the website, and it hasn't. Sometimes when I show this website, it just crashes or it has a bug. And he's like, it's been real nice not having any bugs. Well, let's see about that, Eirik. So what this site lets you do is pick stores in different regions, and then it searches the stores and helps you find products and comparison shop. Like here, we're looking for the Integra. We can try to, no, RDQ. Those search results are not.
Nope, there it was.
Was there? Was it there?
Middle of the RDQ results, yep.
Yeah, so one of the downsides is that, there it is. One of the downsides is that we rely on the store search results. So, clearly most of these things are not Integra. But it's in stock at Race Day Quads. Is it in stock at Get FPV? There it is, in stock at Get FPV, $4.99. Anyway, that's how it works. You can search for what you're looking for, and you can choose different stores in different regions. Searchfpv.com. Okay.
All right. Next up. A little more digital video news, which is kind of interesting. You might have heard of OpenHD. Well, today you're going to hear about OpenIPC, which is essentially an alternative to OpenHD, built on a different system. It's H.265 video, built on only $50 of hardware. That's right. For $50, you're going to have an air unit and the ground station. To do this video, and as low as 50 milliseconds. This is another sort of open HD situation where you're going to get some higher latencies than we would typically expect. However, I would say it's not that high, especially for what seems to be a fairly high quality remote digital video system.
Yeah, one of the criticisms I've leveled at OpenHD in the past is, number one, the hardware is you have to really cobble together. You got a Raspberry Pi, you got a Wi-Fi adapter, you got a camera, and it's kind of cobbled together in a hassle. And the other is that the latency and the performance is not really what you get from other systems. And this starts to address some of that. Apparently, someone discovered that you could flash OpenHD to this IP camera. And we're like, okay, well, let's just do that. Do we have any, like, this is all installation modification. Oh God, oh God, oh God, the soldering. Is that mandatory? Excuse me. But how's it look? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, if you go to about halfway through the video, yeah, there you go.
720p, 50 FPS, low latency. What's the latency, though? Oh, it's an IR cut filter. Oh, cute. This camera has... Well, this drone is not flying great, but that's not what we're really here for. 1080p, what's the latency? Oh, are those stutters reflective of what is really happening?
I believe so. I think it's still like super. I think it's pretty early. He's just releasing the project.
Yeah, okay. It's a little work to be done, I guess. Not really competition for DJI or Walksnail yet, but very, very interesting and fun to play with.
Yeah, there's active development, and I think the other thing is the price is just so insanely low that anybody can try this if you think it's even sort of interesting. You know, if you have any kind of technical know-how and you can spend $50 on parts, you know, you can test this out and try it out. I was thinking about doing this for video cameras for my pond.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no reason that this is only usable for flying. Like I've wanted to have a video camera down by my gate to let me see. Well, first of all, if the gate's open, because sometimes I'm just like, did I close the gate? But second of all, if packages are down there, like my package came, this would be like just plug it to a battery and it'll run all day. Very cool.
My HVAC brain says use sensors. You need a gate sensor. And you need a sensor in the box where the packages go, and then you can tell.
If I only had a box where the packages go. Yeah, no, you're right. The gate open is a problem that could be easily solved with a sensor. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you're interested in playing with that, it's now easier than ever to get into digital open source. This is like the only truly open source, start to finish, digital FPV system. I know HDZero has
OpenHD, OpenIPC is absolutely.
Yep. I know HDZero is open source, but like the chip itself is not open source. This is, I guess probably there are some non-open source hardware. Okay, it's equal to HDZero. Let's just put it that way. Okay. What's next?
Next up, we got Skydio. Has unfortunately ended consumer drones production and moved entirely commercial. So they will be no longer selling consumer drones. You know, Skydio was the company that was doing the tracking drones. Like it would follow you while you ran, and it would even dodge all the trees, and they were doing really cool stuff with those packages and stuff. More expensive than other options, but definitely some consumers were purchasing them. And they have decided to cut their recreational, consumer business off and go completely commercial. And then I've linked an article here by Digital Camera World who kind of goes into a little more like, hey, aren't drones supposed to be growing? Like, why would Skydio leave consumer drones? But they go back and talk a little bit about Parrot, and Parrot making a similar move, and basically just pointing out that the hurdles are harder for consumer drones. Consumer drones are more fighting with DJI, and DJI has got that market on lock, and it doesn't look like DJI is going to be banned for consumers anytime soon. Yep. So do you really want to fight with DJI, or do you want to use the special technology that you have and make military and commercial drones and just make your money?
That's what I was going to say. Like, I know that many government entities have been prohibited from using DJI drones. And so they looked for an alternative, and many of them settled on Skydio. And the people that I talk to say that Skydio is, sorry, Skydio, they say that Skydio is nowhere near as good as DJI.
Right.
But it's the next best thing. And they're like, well, I guess that's what we're going to use. And I think Skydio saw the writing on the wall, is how I read this. In the consumer drones market, they're a distant second to DJI, and consumers don't see any reason to buy them. In the government market, they're number one, thanks to regulation that prohibit DJI from being used. And they were like, well, I guess I know where the money is. There you go.
Yeah.
They do have some cool tech. Their follow you tech is and their obstacle avoidance is extremely good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's kind of sad to see them leave because more consumer drones is more competition for DJI and it's more availability for consumers. I think it's typically always good, and it sucks just seeing a competitor sort of pushed out. I mean, the article suggests, and I kind of agree, that DJI sort of just owns that bit, and it's going to be very difficult for anyone to ever compete, and anyone who ever has gone commercial and military and left DJI in the dust. So,
but, I mean, it's what makes it so difficult is that DJI is goddamn good at what they do. They make extremely good drones at an extremely good price. You know, I mean, unlike some situations where a company becomes dominant in large part because of regulation or because of, you know, market manipulation, I don't know. It seems like to some degree, at least, DJI is number one because they make great products. Not that those products don't have some problems, but consumers don't seem to care as much about those problems as they do about getting a drone that works really well. Anyway, bye-bye Skydio.
Jory says, I don't know anything about other drones like this. What makes them worse than DJI, and why is the gap there? The gap is there because of, I think, the size of the company, the cost of investment, and the return. When you're like, DJI doesn't have to compete with DJI, right? DJI is DJI. So when you look at another company attempting to do this, you're stepping into a market and you're expecting to compete with a multi-billion-dollar company who already has a whole handhold on all these technologies and pieces, right? And you have to try to sell through that entire market, build a brand inside of that market, make a profitable brand inside of that market, build all these technologies inside, not have people leak out to DJI, not steal DJI technology and get attacked by patents. Like, there's so many pieces to the puzzle, right? Like
DJI have patents on some of these things. That means nobody else can do it. I don't know specifics. Yeah, so in order for this to work, no one is going to come up as a startup and make a better drone than DJI. But you would need someone like, for example, Apple to say, hey, we're getting into drones now for some reason. And then they would lose money and just light money on fire for 2 years until they finally started to have a competitive product. And they would have to decide to do that. You would need, like, GoPro tried it with the GoPro Karma. I think GoPro had a chance, although GoPro doesn't really have enough money to beat DJI at its own game. But something like that, because they're so dominant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, next up, we have a story about a friend of the channel, Wez Varty.
Yeah, people know that Wez Varty had a lot of his videos. He took them down from YouTube. He was doing long-range stuff, and specifically did a 100-kilometer flight with Express LRS, and then was contacted by the CASA in Australia about that flight, and it was kind of awaiting judgment, for trying to figure out what would happen and what they were going to do to him and what the results would be. And he's finally gotten those results. He posted those on Facebook with a framed letter he's gotten from the CASA.
Yep. So Wesley has got this, because he can put up on the wall his issue of infringement notice and the facts and circumstances. He has certainly paid for the right to display this. He got a $3,000 fine And before you ask, what can we do to help him pay the fine? It's too late. He started a GoFundMe to help cover the fine, and it was covered in 3 hours. So, yeah, in fact, one anonymous benefactor donated $1,300 to help cover the last of it. So, good news. If you are feeling generous, and you're saying, if when you heard that Wez got fined, you went, oh my God, what can I do to help? Don't now go, oh, well, I guess it's taken care of. Take that generosity and donate it to the Express LRS project. Wez is a developer for Express LRS. Much of the work that he did that got him fined was done as part of his work on the Express LRS project, range testing and so forth. Not all, but much. And any generosity you feel towards him, don't just let it extinguish, but transfer that. There's an open collective link. Surely we have that in the show notes, right?
Yep.
Yes, we do.
I also pasted it in the Discord.
Yeah, so there's an open collective link where you can donate to the Express LRS project, and the devs certainly, it's not like they're taking that money and spending it on nightclub parties and champagne. They take that money and they use it to further develop the project. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're happy he got that paid. We're happy he's passed the CASA, it looks like, and he'll be able to continue making content.
Although,
not be worried about it.
I asked, okay, well, can he put the damn videos back up since now he's been fined? He took the videos down to kind of like, I'm a good boy, don't find me. I say that like I'm making fun of him, but I get it. They could fine him for a lot more than that. So now that he's been fined, can he put the videos back up? And he was like, oh, no.
Right.
They only fined me for one of my videos.
Yeah, we should point out that on that document, it does say that there is a maximum fine that is 10 times what he was fined. So, yeah. They could have assessed that, or they at least will say they could have assessed 27,000 and they instead did 2,700. So,
right.
Yeah, we're at least happy that's the case, and we're happy he got them all paid off. And yeah, good tidings to Wez. So.
Okay. Well, we got one more story tonight before we go into It's Barely News.
Yeah.
And that is a story about you, Blunty.
Yeah, people have been asking about remote ID module options out there. So I've attempted to assemble a list of the ones that have a means of compliance filed with the FAA. And I've gotten as much data as I can publicly find about them. If you've got more info about any of these modules or anything I missed, please let me know. Or if anything seems wrong, please let me know. But these are all the modules that I could find that have an MOC with all the available information about them and how you can use them. So hopefully this helps people know, like, hey, what's out there? What can I use and how to comply with remote ID?
So I have a question for you. So I am working on a video about the flight test remote ID module. Okay. Developed in partnership with FPV Freedom Coalition, of which you are a member, by the way, for full disclosure.
We helped. We helped.
You helped develop it.
Yeah.
Now you've done a lot more research into the available modules on the market, which is why I want to ask you this. My take is that the flight test module is the smallest, lightest. It has self-contained antennas, so there's no external antennas to plug in. It is a completely self-contained unit. You just power it up, and then you are compliant. And my reading is that it is, if not the best, it's leading for a lot of people, certainly FPV hobbyists. Are there other markets, are there other modules out there that compete with it in that way? Small, self-contained, built-in antennas. Is there anything else out there that does that?
Built-in, no, but the DroneTag BS is the closest, I think. DroneTag BS is going to be cheaper and lighter, but the DroneTag BS has external antennas that you mount.
Right.
And now it comes with them. You had to order them separately. Also has plugs instead of solder headers. But yeah, I think they're pretty similar, other than the BS is going to be lighter, I think.
Okay, so for example, someone was doing like a fixed wing where there was plenty of room on the wings to mount external antennas, might prefer the DroneTag BS. But from my perspective, and as an FPV pilot, I just want a little board that I can hang off the back of my quad, and I don't want to have any extra antennas to mount, because mounting antennas on a multi-rotor is a pain in the ass. To me, that it seems like that flight test one is the winner. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, if I was waiting for you to say, no, there's like one other or two others that are exactly the same.
I keep waiting on some other ones to drop. We haven't really seen that. Everything is either more expensive or less featured or targeted at somebody else currently.
Okay.
Like all of Blue Mark's lineup is kind of like targeted at like a sort of a different crowd. They're like assembled with shrouds on them and stuff. I don't know, maybe that Blue Mark DB122 is not so bad, but that does need a GPS. Like it doesn't have GPS built in. But if you add the GPS, they also have a weird enclosure with it. So it's sort of difficult to find like exactly the same offering. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. One of the problems here is that like nothing is standard between any of these companies. Like, you know what I mean? So like when we have flight controllers, we have standard form factors and we have standard plugs and we have standard ideas about how things are going to work and communicate with Betaflight and like all these pieces. And it seems like there's a lot of problems trying to get everybody to kind of talk the same way about the modules. So that's what this goal of this page was supposed to do.
Everybody's trying to solve the problem in a different way. The Spectrum one seems close, doesn't it? To the flight test one. The Spectrum one, it's self-contained. It has a built-in GPS.
I believe so. It's also a Spectrum receiver, has some kind of telemetry thing, but yeah, I believe so. That one just came out not too long ago.
This one actually seems like it's one of the ones that competes the best with the flight test one. Although I think I can't tell how big it is. Might be a little bit bigger. How much does it weigh? It doesn't have a weight. Oh, that's pretty small. Uh-oh. Well, anyway. Well, thank you for putting that together, Blunty. People can certainly, I mean, there's not a lot of options out there. There's not like a million. And this is it. Because until you have a declaration of compliance from the FAA, you don't have a remote ID module that's legal to use. Yeah,
which to be fair, it's like 3-day turnaround if you do it correctly. You know what I mean? It's like you can get it. Like the Sky ID showed up out of nowhere, pretty much. So it is possible. But there are other ones I've seen going around that do not have a DOC. So please make sure if you do want to comply and you're spending the money on a module, please make sure it has a DOC. If it doesn't yet, don't order it. If you don't know, ask me. Or news@fpvknowitall.com. It's Blunty, fpv@gmail.com, whatever. And I can help you. But yeah, we don't want anybody wasting money.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Our goal. I just want to point out, FPV-FC's goal in assisting with the flight test module is mainly to provide an option for people that was small, cheap as we could get it. Small enough as we could get it. Betaflight communication. Basically all the little pieces that we felt were necessary in a module. And if somebody else makes a better one, then somebody else makes a better one.
That's what the Horizon Hobby one is missing. It doesn't have pass-through. So the flight test module can wire to your flight controller and be your GPS unit. The Horizon Hobby one, I don't know if it does that. I didn't see. Okay. All right. My biases, I'm going to put them aside when I do a review, but I'm going to also admit that I have them. I like you guys and I want you to win. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we come to the last segment. It's barely news. A quick run through of some stories that we just kind of thought you would think were interesting to know they exist. But before we do that, we have one more super chat to read. Thank you, Newells, for a €5 super chat. Blue Jay pulled back the latest VO20 because it's burning ESCs and motors. Haven't seen anyone talk about it. Might be worth a mention. Well, I agree. That's worth a mention.
Haven't heard anything about it, but thank you for letting us know.
Okay.
So if you did flash that, don't use it.
Yeah. Flash Blue Jay's the one before 020. Okay. And on we go with It's Barely News.
All right. The first story is Textron has won the handover for the DJI source code in a drone patent fight. We talked about DJI having a lot of patents, but you know who else had a patent? Was Textron, and DJI infringed on it, the courts say. So they actually had to hand over code, my understanding. They actually had to give them a chunk of source code, which is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy that anyone won anything against DJI in court.
Also true.
Do we like Textron? Who the hell is Textron?
I'm not sure. Textron is I don't know. offhand.
Okay. So
I think they're another drone company, but I'm not sure what they built or why they had the fight with them. So.
The takeaway from this is someone beat DJI in court. FDJI.
Yes.
Okay.
DJI was doing the thing they always do, which is saying, "Hey, no, of course it's ours." Didn't settle out of court or anything, and then lost in a battle and had to hand over code. So, okay. The thing about it is the weird part is, and I think we just saw this in gaming recently too, for some reason. But basically, I mean, it's one thing to have an infringement and pay out for an infringement case, right, or something. Mm-hmm. There's another piece to say, like, "Hey, you literally have to hand us a chunk of source code from your like your actual running working code, and that could include private other things, like how they've developed that code and what they've done with it and how it's interacting with their other pieces." I just think that's kind of wild because that doesn't happen every day. So,
yeah, far out. Next up, the goggles Integra now support the DJI FPV drone.
Yeah.
That's cool. DJI adding old support to new products.
Yeah.
So, if you have the DJI FPV drone and have been holding off buying the goggles Integra because they didn't used to support it. Wait, but the goggles too support the FPV drone, don't they?
No.
They don't?
No, they didn't before.
Did? Oh, now they do. But
yes.
The G2 and the Integra?
Yes.
Oh. Well, good for you. Anybody who bought the DJI FPV drone and was thinking you made a terrible mistake, you did.
Well,
but now you can mitigate that mistake.
And for all the people excited, this also adds remote ID. So,
there's always a catch. There's always a catch. Please, sir, may I have some more? Believe me, if DJI fills up that bowl, there's a freaking chicken bone in it.
Yeah.
All right.
People wanted us to mention that this happened. I couldn't even find this Facebook page you know how Facebook is, to actually get the direct links because it's so challenging to search anything on Facebook. But I was told, and this tells us that the Canadian Nationals were canceled. The MultiGP Canadian Nationals were canceled because they lost their venue. And unfortunately, they were going to probably cancel it. They were going to try to reschedule it. And it looks like now they're going to try to schedule it for November, and it'll be an indoor race. So anybody who was wondering about the Canadian Nationals or trying to plan for it, anything like that, that is now shifted to November, most likely.
Okay.
So keep an eye out for those changes.
Canadian Nationals. Does that suggest that Canada is an independent nation of its own instead of just like a suburb of the United States? I mean, wouldn't they just have like the United States Nationals?
Right.
Like they don't have like they play in our baseball league, right?
I don't know.
Just saying. Okay, Canada, you go with your Nationals. You so cute, Canada. Lewis Rossman. What you want to talk more about that? I'm surprised.
It's okay.
Do you know that in the new Linus Tech Tips, their live stream, the WAN show, now Luke has a mute button for Linus in case Linus is going to say something really offensive. I thought of you when I learned that.
Oh yeah,
that you might like a mute button for me.
I thought about me too.
You son of a bitch. Lewis Rossman, proof that a middle-aged Jewish man sitting in a recliner can be a successful YouTube creator. My God, there's hope for us all. What did he say lately?
Yeah, so he's hopped on XJet's videos, actually. I believe he knows XJet a little bit from comments and stuff. But yeah, he wanted to let everybody know, and I thought this is pretty cool that we got a fairly large figure, 1.85 million subscribers, and doing all kinds of, government stuff, talking about how remote ID sucks and why it sucks and how surveillance is BS and kind of a lot of the things we've talked about a lot. Is this a violation of rights? Yes, probably. Criminals are never going to use your module, so it makes no sense. He kind of goes through the whole thing. And I thought it was pretty cool to see that he was doing this. He's done this with many other things with electronics and technology and right to repair, and kind of goes on for more of this here. So I thought that was pretty neat.
I mean, it is neat. Is it too late?
Well, sure, but
you know what I mean?
Is it too late? Here's what I'll say: is no matter what, more people understanding how much BS it is and that it's BS, I think is helpful. Especially
it's always a
people
good
who are
thing.
watching Lewis Rossman. So
yeah. Fair enough. I would love to have Lewis Rossman. I mean, as hard as he's fought for right to repair, I would love to see him putting that kind of energy into remote ID. It can't be a bad thing. You know?
I've been trying to follow that a little bit. I think the biggest issue is that, didn't they basically get boned on right to repair? Didn't right to repair get flipped like at the last minute?
Yep.
And then changed into another thing? And then
it looked like it was going to go through, and then at the last minute, I don't remember the details. I read some stories about it, but the lobbyists won, and the law got changed, and the rug got pulled right the heck out from underneath him.
Yep.
As it always, as it always would have been to astronauts in space.
Yeah. All right.
So,
well, we're all doomed. Remote ID's coming.
Yeah. So, let's sum up the news. Remote ID is going to come and allow criminals to find you and steal your money and drones. The Chinese export ban is going to kill the hobby because no one will be able to get drones. Wez Varty got $3,000. That's a good thing. Okay.
Skydio's leaving.
Skydio. I'm neutral on that, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we'll be here next week, one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll be here next week, and you'll be back on Sunday for your normal Sunday stream, the first one you've done in a month and something.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to check that out, that's at 1 EST, is that right? And then we normally don't
Sunday
say the
1 p.m.
times.
Eastern, and Monday 8 p.m.
Yeah,
for my normal live streams. I'll see you guys there.
The Q&A streams. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. $2 super chat from Morning View. Remote ID is designed to fail. That'd be great if it failed. Captain Bry doesn't know about the always has been reference. Captain Bry doesn't know about the meme always has been. Captain Bry.
You gotta know your memes, man.
Know your memes, dude. Always has been. That's the meme.
All right.
I think of that when I'm like, oh yeah, the rug got pulled from Lewis Rossman. Yeah. Oh my God, the game is fixed. It always has been. And that's how we're going to leave you with that little image.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you guys later. Bye.